Secrets from a Coach. Thrive and maximise your potential in the evolving workplace. Your weekly podcast with Debbie Green of Wishfish and Laura Thompson-Staveley of Phenomenal Training.
Debs.
Linz? That's a bit of a weird one. Yeah, where's Law? Yeah, well, you could say where's Law. She's actually over the other side of the pond in New Orleans this week.
It's impressive.
It's not bad, is it? So she's a jet set traveller. Get my words out.
I love it.
So I'm really pleased that you could sort of step in and talk all about this lovely topic that we've got, which is the fourth in our 4-part series this month, which is all been about leadership. And we've covered off making the move to first-time leaders. What does that mean to people and how we can get the best out of that? We've looked at the Stoic approach to leadership, which is one of Laura's all-time favourite topics, isn't it, when she talks about the Stoics. And then we've also done leading through change, because that's a real big topic that's happening at the moment. So the one we're going to talk about today, Linz, is this confidence versus ego as a leader.
Nice.
And just before we start, as to why I think this is right up your street and why we've got you talking about it, is because of what you do. So tell our listeners a bit about what you're doing now. We do talk about you going, oh my God, she's incredible. But now you can tell us all as to what it is and why and how this plays out.
So what do? I do what you guys do. I facilitate like coach, but what's in my heart is transactional analysis in organizations, which really means I love to get in deep in the organization to understand the structure, the system, the teams, and how it is for the people within the organization. So I can help organizations identify and then eliminate dysfunction within that organization, whether that's at the structure level, team level, or intrapsychically in the people, what's going on with the people. So the psychodynamics of humans in a team, which I find fascinating. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, I love that. The psychodynamics of a team. It's like, oh my God, whenever you say that when we're in a workshop, everybody looks and go, whoa, you can feel that. What is that? And then they explore.
It's that real, I find it incredibly exciting that any team that we're working with or any room that we're working with is a unique organism. It can't be replicated. The people that are in that team with their personalities at that time, nothing can ever replicate it, which is fascinating by itself. And this is why I love this subject.
Yeah, I know, you could stroke the cat here.
The leader in that organisation or in that team has such an impact.
Yeah, it does.
On that dynamic. Yeah, it's like, thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. And I think this has been something that we talk about, isn't it? Like, leave your ego at the door. The minute you sort of step into it, the minute you bring your ego into work, then that's not going to help. And I know that, some people will say, well, what's the difference between confidence and ego? And I think, when we're exploring this, and I'll get you to sort of tell us a bit more, but I think sometimes there's quite a fine line between that, isn't it? While they might appear similar on the surface, I always think their roots and the results that generates are really, really different. Because if you think, we always like the fact that confidence is based on, grounded, I suppose, in self-awareness, which comes from, I suppose, a great level of competence and preparation and making sure that you've got some level of humility. Whereas, on the ego side of it, sometimes it's rooted in insecurity, needing validation all the time and control and credit for different things. So I think, I always like that phrase where confidence listens and ego talks. So how do we listen more than we talk? And then what do we do when confidence delegates, but I think ego micromanages? So I suppose, how do we ensure that leaders lead and are brave and lead with confidence and are wise enough to keep their egos in check? So in your experience, I suppose, that there is a fine line between that. But what would be your wisdoms around that, Linz?
I think it's an interesting question around the ego, because I think everybody has an ego. It's it's our sort of unconscious sort of defending place of where we go to make ourselves feel great and good about ourselves. And I sometimes say that ego does breed confidence.
Yeah.
And I think it's beyond self-esteem. It's that self-belief, in an idea, in a concept. Especially if we're talking about, for example, I don't know, the startup, somebody must have complete belief in their idea, their ability to bring it to life. And I always say sometimes that ego is absolutely the catalyst that sparks great ideas. But, and
I
there
love
is a
that part.
at
Yeah.
some point it can also then be the trapdoor to failure, so to speak. You know what I think we can certainly see at times. It's a bit like you need to have the ego to be able to paint the vision and sell this idea and get people on board and light the fire of excitement for people. But if you do it too much, you just burn everybody out. So I think it is, as a leader, comes back to, we always say every great leader needs a coach, because someone at some point, if you haven't had the ability to hold your own mirror up, somebody needs to work with you to hold that mirror up for you is key. So it's not like ego is a bad word. It isn't. We all have it at some point, and sometimes it plays out well, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting definition, because obviously when we do insights discovery with people, when we're handing out the cards, there is always one that has got on it high ego strengths, and everybody looks at that card and it's fascinating because they look at it and go, I can't give that to anyone, and that's a bad thing. But as you said, with that level of self-awareness, knowing what you are able to do, capable of, all of that, with that humility around it, that is a strength, right, in the world of work today. And I'm fascinated when people want to hand away that card and go, I'm going to keep it because I can't give it to anyone.
I think it's always interesting when we're working with organisations where the originator of the idea is still running the business and is the CEO, and it's no longer it's beyond the startup. It's trying to get traction. It's got investors, but the history that got them here has been their ideas, their thoughts, their recruitment, them driving everything. And that sweet spot where somebody has the ability to say, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the wanting to be right instead of wanting or needing to do right can get blurred if the ego goes unchecked and they're not taking feedback on, or not listening. A bit like your reference that not listening, because what's got them here is shouting, telling, getting stuff done, or driving forward. At what point do they have the ability to pause and stop and go, "Where are we doing now? We're no longer a startup." So we do see it where when not everyone is self-aware to know that they are able to build confidence with listening, with humility. I can be ambitious, but I can still lead with purpose and not my own personal pride.
Yeah, which is always fascinating, isn't it? Because I know I was doing some research around this and I came up with, I don't know where I found it, so I need to probably look. But there was one thing that came up which I thought was brilliant. There's a couple of egos that could ruin the vibe when you have it, and there was 4 that I came across. So the first one was the micromanager in chief, and the second one was the spotlight stealer, which I thought was brilliant, the feedback dodger, which aligns to what you've just been talking about, and the meeting monopoliser. Yet how many times have we been witness to some of these things happening? And I don't think there's any, there's wrong, right, there's just but they can show up in different ways with people. So if we were to say, let's take the first one around the micromanager in chief, some of that is, they rewrite everyone's work, they don't trust the team. How can somebody move away from that and get away from micromanaging and it not be all about them?
And I think that's a really interesting point, because how it feels to be micromanaged, he may make the assumption that they don't trust me. And I was working with a team recently, the leader they'd asked me to step in and do some work because he was a bit of a micromanager. But when I did the work with them, what became really clear was, I would say, they were over nurturing.
Oh, okay.
So we were skewing people before they could fall.
Right. Okay.
So I won't ask you to do that. I don't want to put that on them, and I wouldn't expect them to be work as hard as that, because I wouldn't expect that's too much to ask them. And if someone was doing something where they thought they could make a mistake, they'd almost step in and go, "How are you doing? Well, how's it going now?" it was really frustrating for the person who we were working with. But actually, when we did it, so that over nurturing was coming through as micromanaging, which was fascinating.
Yeah. So where does that come from, though, Liz? Because, Liz, where's that over nurturing? Where does that come from?
So that comes from when we talk about parent, adult, and child.
Yeah.
So if I was to have a relationship with a team where I've been the parent,
Yeah.
and I have that kind of symbiotic relationship where I tell you what to do and you do it, a bit like when we've got children, and at some point the child becomes a teenager and you go, yeah, I want you home by 10, and they go, yeah, I'm not, and then we go, oh, okay, we need to move to a place of negotiation where I listen to your needs and you listen to mine. And sometimes in the development of an organisation, that the script has been set, the organisational script has been set by that owner of the business or the head of that business, where I'm in charge.
Right, okay, got you.
And that can be very structuring or very critical, and don't do this, do that, lots of rules and regulations. Or it might just be, I won't ask you to do anything too difficult in case you can't do it.
So no one learns, basically.
No one learns. And if that person leaves, the team isn't that, not. So we always talk about the tell to ask continuum, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you've always told people in your team how to do something, but then you don't like, oh, we don't know what to do, you haven't told us. Yeah. So how do you move people from a parent-child relationship to an adult space where we negotiate and have a discussion about, well, actually, when you do that, this is how I feel, and what I'd appreciate more is if you allowed me to do this, and that real honest, feedback conversation, and kind of resetting the working agreement, because what works then might not work now. Which probably leads nicely to your what was it called? The feedback dodger.
Feedback dodger, which I found, because according to it says ego hates being wrong and it treats feedback like a personal attack on them instead of a growth opportunity. Whereas competence will say, tell me more. Ego says, you clearly don't get my vision.
Yeah, well, that's
so
not
thinking
how we
about
do
that.
it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that's another one. Yeah.
And I think the challenge is for that feedback dodger is it's hitting a defensive place.
Got you. Okay.
And I think that defensive place means that person is resistant to change.
Right. Okay.
And their personal image of how I look now is key. And understanding yourself and knowing that actually it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be wrong. And that is giving permission to the team to make mistakes and be wrong. That really is modelling the way. But being vulnerable is not nice.
No, people don't like to do it, do they?
It doesn't feel safe. I had to do something today where I actually had 10 people listening to a tape and recording of me doing some coaching, and it was like, it's awful because you're really close. It's
yeah.
So it's much easier operating that place where I know I'm right. I've got this nailed, and if you're challenging me, you're challenging me,
right?
Not the concept.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, okay, and that's why they don't always take it. But people are scared sometimes, aren't they? If they've had a negative reaction to the feedback dodger and they happen to be their boss, that's people are very reluctant sometimes to have another go, or if there aren't, as you said, the contract or how we're going to work together in place. But it's how easy is it to put that in place in an established team?
I think there's an element of how you position it.
Right.
We do loads of work around this.
Yeah, we do.
That up.
Yeah.
I think it's probably when we talk in workshops, what's the toughest thing to do, and it's giving feedback up. The whole workshop by itself that we can run. But there is a way that says this isn't easy for me to say. Yeah. This is coming from a genuinely good place. And while I value all that you've brought, are you okay? So that we can really get me working effectively and do the best for you. Can I give you some feedback? I think hitting the spot where they can listen, which is good for the business, it's good for you, and it's good to hear it. That we will listen, but there is also something around the culture that's created.
Yeah, that must be hard.
Culture of organisation where feedback is open, it's in the moment. If that's not there, some of
Yeah.
that sits because of how the leader is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, as you said, being able to get to that individual and help them see it for what it is, that takes a lot of, I suppose, a lot of awareness and a willingness to want to even make a shift, because, as you said, their persona outside going outwards may be this tough, and to suddenly come in as a very different individual must be really hard for some of them to overcome, really. But it's how we can get them to see the benefits of it, isn't it?
Sometimes, sometimes when we're running workshops, one of the questions I'll often ask somebody is, what is the most challenging piece of feedback or the most painful feedback you've ever had? And when someone says, oh, I remember when I was 27 and someone said that to me, and that was the moment where they had a choice.
Yeah.
They could have gone, oh, they're ridiculous, I'm not like that. Or they've gone, oh,
yeah,
that hurt.
Yeah.
Where's the truth in that?
Yeah, got you.
And explored that. And people that are open to that, then we know, can become amazing leaders.
Yeah.
They're those kind of sliding doors, sort of defining moments where someone goes, wow, I work on this.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, and again, it's down to choice, isn't it, around it? But I suppose if we go on to look at some of the others, which killed me when I read them, and I've seen this, the spotlight stealer. I was working with a team only a couple of weeks ago, and it was really fascinating to watch that dynamic play out, because the team had obviously worked on something together. Yet when I was finding out how was it, what did it do, the leader stepped in and went, yeah, that's all that work that I did. And I went, well, I thought it was a we, and it was fascinating, and it was like owning it. Well, I thought it was a good idea. That's why I encourage people to do it. And all the time I'm stood there going, oh my God, you're just crushing your team over here. Can you not see it? So the spotlight, I suppose it demands that solo encore as I found it. Whereas even though it's the team, they still want you to know that it was their pit or their idea. How do people overcome that?
Well, I think
apart from smashing their lights out.
I think that's an interesting. So I think the reality is that there's a level of self-awareness that knows you're doing it, and I think I know we've been in the room together where someone's done that, and we can see the room rolling their eyes, crossing their arms, going off. So here we go. I think I had that really interesting thing. Can't you see that's the reaction. So some people we are, and they may be amazing at other things.
Yes,
it may be incredible, but that doesn't mean they have humility and the ability to find out how they're landing. And that is definitely, that's enough about me now. Let's talk about me.
Yeah.
That moment where you're like, oh, only a bit shorter, you might have just got away with that.
Just be mindful of what you're, watch the room, but people don't, because I suppose, as you said, it's the spotlight stealer, but the spotlight is on them, so they're blinded by the light, right?
Well, I think there's a bit where, I always say it's like those kids that go to X Factor and goes, no one told you can't sing. At any point, anyone going, what are you doing? Don't do that. That's just awful. But if you don't breed a culture within an organisation where you can go, what's that about? You'll carry on.
It can be,
you are unaware. It's not within your gift.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Which again, we've seen this a lot, isn't it? Whereas the meeting monopoliser, you just think, oh my goodness me, this person, are they ever going to shut up? Because ego just speaks, right? And they just take over. And I know we've witnessed where people are itching to speak, and then they go, I've got my stage, and they just don't stop. And again, it's how do people even recognize that they are doing that in the first place? Because there must be some simple tips they could do, as in, a confident person, or somebody with confidence will do their prep, maybe have some, pre-planning, think about what the topics are, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just wondering, therefore, does an ego-driven leader just wander in and wing it? What's your thoughts?
I think it's overplay.
Yeah, okay.
So I think at some point within their script, that's gone to a place what they've created has worked.
Right, got you. Okay.
And, I think sometimes that facade of, let me be the singing, dancing version of me, and let me do the show hands, and their conscious persona that says, this is how I think I need to be in this role.
Yeah, got you. Okay.
And I think the challenge is, I say the person, your personality, anyone's personality comes to the role.
Yeah,
You
okay.
bring certain things to that role, and that role is unique within that organisation. There's challenges for that role in the organisation, and
Yeah.
there's challenges in that personality, in our personality for that role.
Got you.
And I think other times, and I think we've seen it sometimes over the last few years, you know, for example, a leader 25 years ago is very different to the leader you'd need to be in 2025, right?
Yeah.
But that worked.
Yeah, it worked then. Yeah.
That worked then. And that worked, so I'm staying with the script that I created for myself because that's the safest option.
Yeah.
Whereas to try something new means I've got to have some humility, I've got to have some vulnerability, I've got to ask how I'm landing, I need to be seeking feedback. And we know that leaders that genuinely seek negative feedback are more effective as leaders. Whereas people that seek, was that all right? Did I do good there? Lovely, thanks. Reaffirming feedback just keeps me saying, yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So I think we usually get people working with us when they realise how they are isn't working.
Yes, and then that's when they go.
I'm no longer as effective as I thought I was.
Yeah, and I think that's the bit, isn't it?
I don't know why my team's disgruntled at the minute. I don't know why my team's unhappy. And then we're in that really honest space that says, how challenging do you want us to be?
Yeah.
What feedback would you like us to give?
Yeah. What have we observed? Yeah. And it takes a lot of courage. I think it does take courage and bravery, doesn't it?
Never ever ceases to amaze me how vulnerable people are. And so privileged to be in the position to work someone through, or help them work through that self-development space where they can emerge stronger, wiser, and more able to do what they want to do.
Yeah, well. I think it's brilliant. Yeah, and when I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to, in a moment, we're going to just touch on briefly when how do you start to deal with something with an ego leader if it starts to become a bit more abusive and coercive or narcissistic or misogynistic, which is the word I can never say, because it happens. So shall we explore that in a moment, Linz, and see what we can do with it? Okay, Linz, so it can be painfully real, right, out there in the world today. And I know there's no one size fits all strategy around it, but if we're thinking about how do we start to overcome that if somebody is crossing over into that abusiveness or coercion or narcissism, whatever it might be, because if you feel it, you're not overreacting to it by asking how to handle it. And a lot of people won't necessarily ask, how do I handle that? Until they've left the organisation and it just disappears. And I think, because that type of leadership can be really toxic and very damaging, it's how do you create that environment where we can, I suppose, call it out? How can we actually assess what's going on, knowing what the situation is we're finding ourselves in? And also, what do we do to act upon that, and how do we protect ourselves as we go through it? Because I know some people have, certainly through coaching, have had that experience, and it's heartbreaking that another human can do that to another human. And I know we only ever hear one side of it, but it's enough to challenge that individual and not know what to do. But if we were to think about what is it that maybe drives a narcissistic behaviour in somebody?
Well, it's deep.
It's deep. I know. We're going to light touch this one, Linz.
The deeper the childhood trauma, the more of a narcissist we can become. We all have narcissistic. So I so dislike the person that I really think I am. I'm going to put on this front, and then I'm going to go through my life utilising people like coffee machines to get what I need. And
right.
If I've used you, I'll spat you out. I'll go onto a new coffee machine, so to speak. That's a broad brush.
Yeah.
I think the challenge we've got in organisations where, we've got our organisational script playing out, and then we've got somebody who may be having narcissistic traits or toxic traits as a leader, which will have an impact on how it feels to work within that organisation or that team. And, if we've got somebody, for example, with our script drivers, if you've got somebody who has a please others driver, for example, that means they're literally programmed to want to please someone.
Right, got
which
you.
Then could be used as a weakness.
Yeah, okay.
Because they are, we often call them the people that they're the say nothings.
Right, okay.
So instead of saying, that's a bit rude, or what's that game? They will say, do you know what, I'll say nothing, I'll just let it go.
Yeah, okay. Which can,
But
And that's
an
quite
interesting way
hard,
of
isn't
it.
it?
That will often say nothing for them,
Okay.
but often you'll find if it's in defense of someone else, you'll often hear that, "Oh, I'm not having that."
Okay.
So I
they'd
think
be,
this is being really clear on
yeah,
your own self-worth and your own boundaries
yeah,
around what is okay,
yeah.
not okay in how we work here or how you're spoken to me.
Mm,
And sometimes we're not really sure. You kind of want to say to someone, "Is that right? That was a bit rude."
yeah. Because
That's
you're
a bit
checking it
odd, isn't
out.
it?
Yeah,
And I think that is also the challenge if any psychological games are playing out in the team.
yeah,
You kind of question, we've seen the drama triangle play out a million times
yeah,
over and over. Sometimes you're going, "Oh, was that a dig? Was that
yeah.
it?" And if you're feeling something, it feels a bit, I'm not sure. If you're thinking about it or feeling odd, it probably is.
Yeah, okay. Because your feelings are there to give you a bit of a warning, aren't they, really?
Yeah.
But it's checking them out first, isn't it?
Yeah. But those
Yeah.
people that are more sensitive will feel it as they walk in the room. Like, oh, it just feels horrible in it.
Yeah, it just feels weird.
But
Yeah,
it might not be happening to you.
yeah, got you.
It might just be something you're experiencing. So if you've got someone, for example, with a be strong driver, they'll go, just crack on and carry on.
Yeah, okay. So I suppose you need to sort of ask yourself if you're getting a sense of or feeling, just ask yourself, I suppose, is this just an isolated or a bad day or is it a pattern that's starting to emerge so you can sort of be more mindful about it? I suppose, is it impacting on my mind health and my sense of safety? I think is you've got to ask yourself that as well. And do I
always say
feel
check, I
unsafe?
always say check the gateway.
Yes.
And we always say, what am I thinking at the minute? What's that feeling I've got? And what have I just seen? What's the behaviour that's making me feel off? Because there's a gateway somewhere that will tell you if you can break it down into what's the gateway to it.
To it. Yeah.
And
It's
then asking yourself, is
fascinating.
this okay?
Yeah. Is it okay?
If my child was 17 and joining this organisation, what would I say? Don't come here.
Yeah.
Or come here, you'll love it.
Oh, you'll love it. Yeah. So that's interesting to check in, isn't it? Would you tell someone, a younger person or someone just your own family, would they come and work here? That's that pub test, isn't it? We always say, would you tell people where you work if you're going down for a pub, down for a pub or go for a drink somewhere? So looking at it from there. But I think it's an interesting one, this one, because the other one, I suppose, is which could lead into the meeting monopoliser that we talked about, was this the misogyny piece may show up like where they might talk over you and they might dismiss your ideas in a meeting, so they monopolize it, but they could also be demonstrating some of that behavior as well. And again, I suppose it's based on their scripts, as you were saying. Would that be fair to say?
Some of it's script, some of it's personality.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll often work with someone who is really good at their job, but if I had to describe them, I'd say they're a lone wolf.
Oh, yeah, okay, got you.
They are great going out on their own, defending and going out into the world, but suddenly you've got a team to take with you.
Mm.
So instead of being collaborative and going, what's your thinking? We're like, no, not doing that.
Yeah, got you.
It's a ridiculous idea. Let's do this. Because that's how they are. That takes a lot of work to go, okay, maybe this is the wrong job. Maybe leading people, and we've worked with people where we've gone, definitely, don't lead people off your trot. Some people it's not. Some people they're great as a process driver, or they're doing something more strategic where I haven't got to kind of galvanize the troops to come with us. So sometimes it is just how you're hardwired. But I believe everyone's capable of change.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Linz. I think, unless there's something fundamentally, but I think, there's always something that you could maybe unlock within them. That's if they want to, right? Which is a choice.
Yeah, I know. But I was talking about this today. Coming out of our script also means we're losing some of our safety.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not something you can do. We do just do this and everything will be fine, because there's almost like a bit of grieving for what I'm losing.
Okay.
And that's why that coaching space is so important, to make someone feel safe. And I'm working with somebody at the minute who had a belief about his team, which was don't trust anybody here.
Wow, okay.
Which was a really strong belief. So he was very much head down, get work done by himself. He didn't trust anybody within that organisation. It was an anxious organisation. It was triggering him. And that piece of work where we said, is it everybody? There's a couple of people that I trust. So is it don't trust anybody? He said, no, I can trust some.
Okay. So
Which is a
reframing it.
significant. I'm not asking you to trust the world. I'm not
Yeah.
asking you to trust everybody in the organisation.
Yeah.
If we were to go with trust some, what would that look like?
Yeah, got you.
And that's putting down some of those defences, coming out of my defensive script position to go, okay, because what would happen if you let them in?
Yeah. Oh my God, it's fascinating, isn't it? When we talk about this whole confidence versus ego and how do we do it, well, there is so much to it, isn't it? But I think, as you said, it sort of, starts with that ability to have a great level of self-awareness and, as you say, actively seek out that feedback if you're in a leadership or a manager position to go, what am I doing well? What am I not doing well? But trust you, tell me.
There's an element around, I think, it's almost like, I don't think ego's good or bad. I think it's almost like using it like a tool.
Yeah. Yes.
If you were to go, we know when we're running a workshop or something, you've got to look like you're competent. And we assess how competent someone is by how confident they look. So sometimes there's pulling on a bit of ego that goes, I can do this, I've got this.
Yeah.
That bravado, that I've got this, I'm good at this stuff, whatever it is. That's a great tool to be able to pull out of your bag for that moment. But it is recognising that it's not the only tool in the bag. And actually at times that tool is going to turn into a club.
That's a good way of looking at it, actually. Yeah. What do you want? Yeah.
Put it away.
Put it away, yeah. But I suppose it's the cost, isn't it, of if people don't get this bit right, the overall ultimately impacts on people, the organisation, it's not a great place to work, all of that. It has a massive impact, doesn't it? If people aren't aware of it, and I suppose that's part of becoming aware and looking, I love the fact is the culture, is it ingrained within it? Can it be shifted? How long will it take? Can you be bothered? I suppose that's the other thing, isn't it? Asking yourself, can I be bothered?
And Eric Byrne always says, if you're a bystander and doing nothing, you're still playing the game.
Yeah, very
you're
true.
Seeing it play out and you're not calling it.
Yeah.
You're still in it.
You're still in it. Yeah. So it's about that, isn't it? I love that. So I think this has been fascinating, Linz, because we started off with that, looking at what does it mean? How do we recognise it? How can we overcome it? What are some of the things that we can do? And as always, it comes back in that having a great sense of self-awareness and being secure in who you are, knowing all your warts and all, right? Which is what we always say to leaders is what you're good at, what you maybe not so good at, how might you overcome that, all of that lovely stuff that we do. But I just think it's really, it's been fascinating to understand that it's a lot deeper. And I suppose working across it and understanding it is really, really important. So if you were to give us a bit of a call to action, I'm going to ask you to do the call to action and then share with us what would be your call to action if you find either you are that ego leader at times, or if you're spotting it in others, what would you say?
I always say use the power or the potency of the team.
Nice.
You're, not in a negative way, in a game playing way, but being able to look to each other together. We are always stronger. I think Eric Byrne said that very few people can pull themselves up by their own psychological bootstraps or keep their moral compass intact.
Okay.
So knowing that and thinking, well, who am I checking in with?
Yeah.
Who do I check in with? Is my moral compass intact? Who can pull me up from my bootstraps and give me my honest feedback? Because if you don't have those people that you can think of, there's something about the culture or the climate that's not happening.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that.
What's your part in that?
Yeah, because we all play a part, don't we? And it's having the courage to even hear what could be and what you might like to do, and
It's a really useful question all the way along, wherever you are in your journey. So I hate that phrase, that journey. But wherever you are, to say, so who do I go to? Who's the person? Who are the people I pick that phone up to and go, can I check my moral compass?
Yeah.
Today I need you to pull I need you to pull my bootstraps up.
Yeah. Is it me? Yeah.
We know who we
are. Yeah.
But if you can't name them, then think about who can I choose?
Yeah.
Because it might be that I've got a be strong driver and I don't want any help from anybody.
Yeah.
So if you were to go, okay, who can I choose? Who will be my go-to? Who do I cultivate?
Yeah.
Because that's when we're talking about that real team.
Yes, I love that. Oh my God, I love that call to action. So I suppose share the secret from me would be to just check in, I suppose. Check in with yourself. And, don't be the feedback dodger. That killed me when I read that. Have the courage to understand what impact you are having, but that all links into how intelligent you are emotionally, right? Which is a whole nother topic we could talk about. But this has been fascinating, Linz. And as always, we know that you give so much of insight and make it practical and real so that we can go, oh, that makes sense. I understand it. So I really appreciate you joining and sharing your experience on that, because this series has been all about leadership, whether it's with a small L or a big L. We are all in that position of how we can navigate our way through the journey, as you say.
If ever I become the meeting monopoliser, because I love talking about TA too much, permission to tell me.
Permission to tell you. I will, Liz. No worry. I'd rather than just roll my eyes or fall asleep at you and go, oh, here she goes again.
Sleep box again.
The thing is, it's fascinating. That's the thing, but there's an eagerness to want to know more, isn't there, as well? But yeah, keeping to the agenda sometimes is difficult, isn't it, with us? We go from there. So this has been amazing. So thank you, Linz. So as I said, our 4-part series is coming to an end as we sort of head into our next, which means we have a shiny new topic that we're talking about. And we base this around a theme, believe it or not, Linz. We're going to talk about Star Wars as our theme. And we're going to look at what does it mean to access your inner Yoda in order to have a powerful presence. So we're going to do some exploration around that. This is Laura's favourite topic, obviously. The droids keep us safe. So how can we engage teams with new tech? So we're going to explore what that means and how that can help us be even better. And then self-belief in the workplace, which is the forces in you. So how can we do that? So they're just a few sprinkling tasters of what we're going to bring in our next series. So, so I'll be speaking to you again, I'm sure, about some of those, the Rebel Alliance, maybe.
Oh, I'd like to challenge, Darth Vader's leadership.
Yeah.
The climate that he created in his leadership team,
It says it all. You can never watch these programs now, can you? Films without investigating it.
Sadly. My teenage daughter the other day just looked at me and just said, can you just turn it off for a bit?
So she was comfortable not to be a feedback dodger, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Linz, I just thank you very much. And I know Laura's having a ball in New Orleans doing her stuff and bringing people together. So thank you for your time as well. And look forward to the next one. Love you.
We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at contact@secretsfromacoach.com or follow us on Insta or Facebook. If you're a Spotify listener, give us a rating as it's easier for people to find us. And if you want to know more, visit our website, www.secretsfromacoach.com, and sign up for our newsletter, here to cheer you on and help you thrive in the ever-changing world of work.